Oh my God, thank you. Thank you guys. Oh my God, thank you. Yes. I'm sorry. I just so badly had to start the podcast like that because I won. I won. It was me who won. Oh, I always knew I would win the breakup. I always knew deep down inside. But, there was a moment where I was like, could he win? I don't do myself any favors. I literally have a podcast called Recipe for Crazy. You could tell somebody that I chopped my ex-boyfriend up into like 200 pieces and consumed his flesh and someone would believe you. Like there's literally a video of me discussing how I would suck a dead man's popsicle dick. So let's not pretend that I'm sane. So for him to go post his caption and finally put himself out there on his own, it was beautiful. Chef's kiss. Okay. I couldn't have asked for a better way to start the holiday season. It was the best gift anyone could have possibly given me. It was the best gift he ever gave me out of our 2-year relationship. Thank you very much, sir. You really did your girl a favor. Anyways, before we get into this shit, I want to have a little mini life update. If you listen to my podcast, I talk about my dating life a lot. I've been seeing this guy. We call him the kid. He's 30 years old. I'm 33. And he already coincidentally calls himself the kid. So it kind of just worked out. Anywho, I will say this about the guy. This is the first guy I've dated in a really long time where I didn't question if he was gay. Like I know for a fact that man is straight. Because, there's so many reasons, but this guy I'm beginning to think only cares about beer, football, and titties. Like, I just want to know if there's any depth to him. Is there anything more to him than just the basic makings of a man? That stuff turns me on. You can sit there and twist my titty for as long as you want, but if we just spent 5 hours watching football, the only liquid that's going to be produced from my body is going to come from my eyeballs, from the tears that I'm shedding from being so fucking bored. I'm not getting wet. I'm not horny. Not only do I need a little nipple stimulation, but I need some emotional stimulation. I need to have more of a connection than that. I'm a fun gal, okay? I love to go to games. I love to have fun. I'll paint my fucking face. I'll drink beers all day. I can get down with the sports. But if we're talking about literally doing that for like 6 hours, I'm going to blow my fucking brains out, okay? Anyways, so I don't know how I'm feeling, okay? I like him. I'm attracted to him. I just was a little turned off by the hangout situation. I was turned off by it. So there was just a little too much testosterone going on. I felt like I needed to listen to a Taylor Swift album after he left. I felt like I was dropping balls. Okay. Like it felt like a dude's weekend where we were just slinging beers, playing video games, watching football. Like, yeah, that stuff is fun and cool, but I don't know. I need a little bit more than that. It just didn't feel, I don't know. I just would like something else, something more. Like those days are fun, but it's just felt like that's what everything's been about when we hang out. So I don't know how I feel. Anyways, moving on. One thing I learned this week, and then we're going to get into this, but one thing I learned this week is don't take Valium before you go to bed. I obviously have been feeling a little stressed out recently, as I'm sure you can imagine. So one night I took a Valium before I was going to sleep and I should have went right to sleep, but I guess I stayed up a little too long. If you put a gun to my head right now, I couldn't tell you if the night before I may or may not have ordered 2 vibrators from an Instagram ad. I was like, what? Did I order are 2 vibrators about to show up to my door right now? Like, I don't need a vibrator. I must have been really horny in the middle of the night. Your girl's single, okay? And she's not having sex. So I think I ordered 2 vibrators in the middle of the night from an Instagram targeted ad. Actually, where I ordered it from is, that crazy girl Instagram. They have like all these crazy ass motherfucking sex ads like in their memes and stuff. And I'm not going to lie. It gives your girl a little tingle downstairs when I see it. I'm like, oh my God, that kind of looks kind of good. So I may or may not have ordered it in the middle of the night while I was on Valium and not sleeping as I should have been. I don't know. And because I ordered it through Instagram, and you click it and the web browser pops up through that. So it's not in your browser history. So I don't even know. Like, I can't even tell you if I fucking bought this shit. So I just have to wait a few days and see if a fucking box of vibrators shows up to my door. Okay. So that's my life right now. Oh, also, one other thought. The best way for me to tell how I am doing in my life is by my Instagram targeted ads. A couple months ago, when I opened Instagram, I felt like it was a personal fucking attack because all my targeted ads were like, not even like, are you depressed? It was like, major depression, clinical trial, sign up here. Are you majorly depressed? Like, it wasn't even just, are you depressed? It was like, are you majorly depressed? And I have all these fucking screenshots. Like, all my ads were about how to not fucking kill yourself. However, lately, all my ads have been like, hot girl shit. Like, look at these cute dresses, makeup, skincare. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing good in life because my targeted ads on Instagram are all like, just for fun stuff, not like don't kill yourself. So if you're ever wondering what your mental state is and you can't really tell, just hop on Instagram and look at your ads because it'll tell you. But that's how you find out. Okay. Hot tip from me to you. Moving on. Back to the caption. Wow. That is all I have to say. So first I'm going to tell you how I heard about it. It was a Friday night. I was out with my girlfriend and we were completely plastered. Like, I was hammered. We were lost in the middle of the street. We didn't know where we were going. I just looked at my Instagram. I opened up my DMs and there was a particular DM that stood out. Like, I was too drunk to even look at my text messages at this point. Don't ask me why I went on Instagram, but there was a particular Instagram account who never DMs me, who DM'd me, and I opened it and this person sent me this screenshot and was like, did you see what your ex posted? I was like, no, what are you talking about? So I FaceTimed this person and he was telling me all this stuff. And he was like, he's bringing it down your character. He's slandering your name on the internet. I'm like, well, I mean, it's not like I haven't gone on my videos and said stuff about him. And everything I've said is the truth. So I didn't know what it said. And I was super confused. I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, he hard launched a new girlfriend. I was like, whoa, okay. I mean, good for him. I don't really care. I'm so past my ex. Like, the guy could be out gangbanging a group of Victoria's Secret models and I would literally be like, good for you, dude. Like, I don't care. One thing about me is the type of crazy bitch I am is I don't stalk, I block. When I'm done with your ass, I'm done with your ass. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Sure, do I post a occasional little video talking about real events that took place? Yeah, but that's my creative expression. That's what I do. I talk about a lot of my exes. I talk about a lot of things. I just talk about things that happened in my life. That doesn't mean that I still have an emotional connection to this person, because I don't. So all of a sudden, we're on FaceTime. My phone dies. I was like, fuck. I had no phone charger. I had no nothing. I was like, I need to go into the nearest bar and charge my fucking phone. So my friend and I go into the first bar we see. We go in. I go up to the bartender. I must have been standing at the bar for 3.6 seconds. And this tall man who's totally my type, pointy face and everything, walks up to me. Side note, the kid who I am also seeing right now was kind of ghosting me this weekend. So I thought, come to find out, he didn't. If you watch one of my TikToks, the one with the pistachio pie, I tell the story for that. But, and him and I aren't exclusively dating. I don't owe this man anything. We're not even sleeping together. It is what it is. So this guy walks up to me and I can tell he is into me. This dude's into me. He is on me like white on rice. Okay. And within probably 5 minutes, he and I are making out at the bar. He's also pretty drunk. We're making out at the bar. His friend comes over to him. He tells his friend to piss off. I tell my friend to piss off. My friend is also just a savage and goes out by herself. So it's really not a thing. I told him everything that was going on. I was just on the phone with this person. My ex just posted this caption. We ended up having the best fucking night. Me and this guy, it was so fun. We were dancing in the streets. I'm not even kidding. He's looking at me and he's like, you're crushing on me right now. I was like, I'm not crushing on you. I was like, you're crushing on me. He's like, yeah, I am crushing on you. I want to take you out on a date. What's your favorite restaurant?
What are your favorite flowers? I'm getting you flowers. I'm taking you out on a date. He booked a date for Wednesday. Done deal. We had the best fucking time. The last thing on my mind was this dude, okay? Me and this guy didn't hook up. It was super innocent. It was just a fun, good fucking time. And he was cool. He was cool as fuck. And, I'm looking forward to seeing that guy again. The next morning I wake up, I'm hungover as fuck because I was slinging White Claws. So I finally read the caption and I'm going to tell you what happened. I went into a manic episode. I'm not bipolar, but I do have major mood swings, which are balanced by a drug called Lexapro. I was not good at taking my Lexapro that weekend. I kind of lost my mind. I wasn't sad, but I was elated. I was kind of happy. I was happy about the caption because he finally exposed who he was to the world, and it had nothing to do with me. It was all on him, and I was happy about it. So I posted a lot of stories. Do I regret some of the stories? Yeah. Did I lose a lot of followers from posting 1,000 stories that weekend? Absolutely. But I couldn't help myself. Like I said, I was in a manic episode, and I really wanted to take my time before I did this podcast. That's why it's taken so long, because I wanted to get back to being balanced before I came on here and said anything more. I wanted to have a good head on my shoulders as I told you guys this stuff that's going on. So I finally read the caption and I was my jaw was on the floor. I just kind of laughed about it. He said a lot of things that weren't true. And I felt bad for the girlfriend. I totally understand his need to retaliate and I support it. But, maybe just post a cute heart launch with your new girlfriend and don't bash your ex-girlfriend in the caption. Why don't you do something else? Why don't you post a story, another caption explaining your side of the story that has nothing to do with your girlfriend? It was just rude to her, rude to me. And it just showed everybody who he is, because that is who he is. And I was not surprised. I was shocked that he did it for sure, but nothing he said surprised me because he has said and done so many worse things than that. I was just kind of relieved that finally other people can see it. The stuff about my weight, he knows that my weight is a trigger. When I first met him, I was probably 180, 190 pounds, and he saw me struggle with my weight for a long time. So he knows that's a trigger of mine. So he clearly said that to upset me. Then the girlfriend commented on the post and said, thank you to that llama for bringing us together. He said she's beautiful on the inside and outside. That's not really a beautiful thing to say. So not very nice. I'm not going to insult that girl. I wish her the best. I support women's rights and wrongs. And, I wish her luck. I really do. No hard feelings. But I will say this. I was staying quiet for a long time. I actually recorded a podcast a few weeks ago. Never released it because it was all about he and I's relationship. But I didn't post it because, I felt like the dust finally settled and I really didn't want to kick the dust back up. He also knows where I live. He has keys to the apartment. I didn't want to rile him up again. I didn't want to open this box again. I wanted to keep it closed. So I never posted it. But him doing that caption gave me license to say whatever the fuck I want. So I'm going to give you the facts. Before I get into the story, I'm going to give you a few very annoying PSAs because it's important to me. First, public service announcement. I'm going to be discussing women who were involved with him cheating on me, with women who were on the show, and the show I'm talking about. And I just want to say, I respect these women so much. Everything I say is not to bring these women down. I do not blame them at all. I totally understand why they did what they did. I don't want you to listen to this and point fingers at them. I have had discussions with these women before I recorded this podcast. I've talked to them a lot. I like them. I care about them. So please understand that these are actually very good people. They're great people. They didn't know at certain points that he and I were together. I want you to understand that these women did nothing wrong. And they're also, I hate to use the word victims, but they're victims in this situation. They didn't do anything to hurt me. I don't want them to get hurt. And that's that. Second PSA. Everything that I am sharing in this episode is my experience in my relationship and the people who were involved in it. This is not connected to the show in any way, shape, or form. The show did nothing wrong in this scenario. The show had no idea about, if not all, most of these situations. If anything, the show and I'll talk about this soon, they didn't want us to be together. They did not think it was a good idea. They were against it. I have nothing but respect for that show, and they didn't tell me to say this. They have no involvement in this. This isn't about the show. Nothing about what I'm telling you is about the show. This is about my experience with my ex-boyfriend, and we happen to both be producers on this show. So everything I'm telling you is not connected to that. This is my experience. We just happen to be working on the show, and people who are on the show happen to be involved. Next PSA. This has been the craziest year of my life. You have to understand all of the crazy things that happen. I'm going to start back from the beginning of our relationship, but everything insane that happened has all taken place since last December. It all just happened so fucking quickly, between him cheating on me, all the lies I figured out, my mom getting cancer, going viral on TikTok, losing my job, my boyfriend going to rehab, being suicidal, major depression. All of these things have happened so quickly and in such a short amount of time. It's really wild. And I'm finally now just catching my breath from everything that has happened. It has been so much. Prior to this relationship, my life was very stable. I was really together mentally and my life was good. Since starting this relationship, I've lost everything. My life has fallen apart. I have nothing fucking left. I've been flipped upside down. Everything has fallen off of me. I have nothing left. I have nothing left to fucking lose at this point. I've lost everything. I have lost everything. I'm going to tell you this story from start to finish as it happened. I'm going to say what I knew at the time, the facts as they happened. But one thing I want to say is Kooks, which is how we will continue to refer to him, because that is how you know him. He really fucking hurt me. He really hurt me in a way that I've never been hurt in my entire life. We really loved each other. The love and connection we had was so great. It was so incredible. It was something that you read about. You don't find it every day, that feeling. And that's why it's sad. It's sad that this is how it ended. It's sad that it's gotten to this point. And I had like the craziest dream last night. I had this dream. It's probably why I'm emotional today. Like that my mom was on hospice and it was her last moments. It was so hard. And I'm just so scared. Because that could be a reality. And I'm so scared. My mom's going into... She has her last chemo appointment this week. I hope she doesn't listen to this because she really doesn't like me talking about it, but she just doesn't sound good, And I'm so scared. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but there's just so much. This is so emotional for me, and sometimes it's hard for me to feel the emotions immediately. When it happens, it takes me a minute. I like to laugh about it. I make a joke, but then it hits me. And I think today is the day that it hit me. And I'm just sad. I'm just sad that this is what it is. But this is reality and things will get better. Hopefully. I'm sorry. But I'm just being real with you guys of what the reality is. And the reality is we were in love. And it was special, and it's disappointing that this is how it had to be. But, in an alternate reality where I didn't go viral, maybe behind closed doors, it would have just been like a whisper thing. I would have been the one that was embarrassed because I look like the idiot with all the things he did. But I think the scary thing for him is, I have a voice now. He finally did something to somebody who has a voice, whereas before in his previous relationships, he did things to them and they never had a voice. They never had a platform or a place where they could speak on this publicly, or they might not have even known that he did those things. But I am not the one. Honestly, I'm not the one to do that too. Could we have taken to Instagram and posted one of those cringy fucking posts where we're like, we had a mutual understanding and we broke up and it just didn't work out because da 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 da. Yeah, but that would have been a crock of fucking shit. And what I have built myself through TikTok and my online presence is being blatantly honest and telling you the deep inner workings of my mind as a woman. And I wasn't going to go online and spew you a bunch of fucking bullshit. Okay. It's like when somebody posts online that somebody died and you're just like, well, how did they fucking die? Can you just tell us? Well, I'm going to tell you how we fucking died. I'm going to tell you how we died. So let's get fucking into it. First, if you want to know our love story and if you want to know how it started, there is a post on my TikTok. It's me wearing a tan shirt and I tell you exactly how all that started. It's a 10-minute video. You can go watch that. But I won't tell you those details, but you can go there to hear more if you really want to know. I'm going to go through this story chapter by chapter to help it all make sense. We're going to start with the summer show. This is the season of our friendship. I was depressed. I was fat. For me. I was fat for me. I was engaged. And we hadn't had sex in a year. Even the night we got engaged, we didn't have sex. We both knew it was ending. The first time I met Kooks was actually over a Zoom call. And I remember when I saw him, I was like, why is this guy working on this show? Like, it makes no sense. He kind of looked like, I don't know, I hate, kind of like a wigger, I was like, what is this guy doing working on the show? Is kind of weird. It didn't really make sense. And I remember I met him in person. We were in another country. I had zero attraction to him. My first thought when I met him was, this guy seems troubled. Like there's something going on with this guy. I remember he was sick before we started filming. We started to develop a friendship. I liked him as a friend. I knew he was troubled. We were on the jungle path. If you know what that is, it was a storyline on the show. And I remember I looked at him and I asked him, are you okay? And he's like, why would you ask that? I'm like, I can tell that you're struggling. I mean, I hate to say this, but it seems like you're coming off of drugs. And he was just shocked that I even knew that. The reason I knew that is because, and this is a story for another time, but I had a huge crush on my high school physics teacher. When I graduated high school, we ended up connecting that summer and we dated for 2 years. And in that relationship, towards the end, he started developing an addiction to painkillers because of an injury he had that he got prescribed them. And it was a really loving and incredible relationship. And I was with him through the ups and downs and the withdrawals of that drug. And so I was very aware of how that worked. And I could just tell that Kooks was going through something like that. And that was kind of our first connection. And the fact that I even knew that, and that was that. So post season, we started prepping for another show. And he and I started talking a lot. We would be on the phone for hours at a time. And he would say, oh my God, I've never been on the phone for this long. I can't say the same thing because, I'll sit on the phone with someone for hours at a time. I just love to talk. So I was just like, yeah, okay. So we started developing this friendship. I really just looked at him as a little brother. I remember telling my ex-fiance, oh my God, it's so cool that there's this guy at work, that we connect so much. He's awesome. We have so much in common. He's such a good friend. I'm excited to work with him again. He had a boat day where his parents own a boat and he invited a bunch of producers to come on the boat one day. So he was like, hey, come meet at my house and we'll go to the boat. So I go over to meet him and there was nobody else there. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was just going to be me. And there was a vibe. There was a vibe. And, the things I'm telling you aren't great. I didn't do great things. I was engaged. Obviously, we weren't having sex. We weren't sleeping together. We were on the outs, but it doesn't excuse my actions. I was engaged. There was a vibe. Again, you can go check out that video for more information. But when I met his family, I had a feeling, and I was still wearing my engagement ring. And I kind of wanted to hide my engagement ring because I had this feeling when meeting his mom that there was something there. And little did I know, every female on that boat he had slept with besides me. Every female on that boat he has had an external organ inside of, including his mother. I was the only woman on that boat that he had not entered in some fashion. Okay. Wish I knew then. Didn't really know that. Okay. So yeah, we were talking daily. I remember the night before I left for the next show, my friends came over to hang out and I was telling them about him. I showed them a picture of him and they were like, that's going to be your man, dude. Because obviously my friends knew that the engagement wasn't going to last. So they were like, that's going to be your man. We can tell. I was like, shut the fuck up. I'm not attracted to him. He has a drug problem. It's not happening. Chapter 2, the season of love. That's what we're calling it. before we started filming, he and I were paired to do an assignment together, and we were spending a lot of time in my hotel room together planning. And I remember one day specifically, he said to me, I've never had a friend that's a girl that I felt so connected to that I felt like I could tell them anything. And I looked at him and I said, we're not friends. We're not going to be friends. And he was like, we're not. And I said, no. And he said, okay, good. That's kind of where it started. And he knew I was engaged. He didn't know any of the issues I was having in my relationship. I never told him that stuff. He, in fact, met my ex-fiance. We all had a meeting point before we went to the location we were going to. My ex-fiance dropped me off, and Kooks shook his hand and took his girl. And he took pride in that, actually. He was like, I shook that man's hand, I took his girl. And I was like, well, that's not necessarily, because you can't take something that doesn't belong to anybody, because we were already going on a break when I was going on this season. But whatever you want to think. Once it was known between the both of us that it was going down, we started having these movie nights. We called my hotel room the Vibe Shack because I had like these starry lights. We were listening to music. We had all this stuff in common. Same favorite movie. We were listening to Tears for Fears. We connected because we both loved the movie Donnie Darko. And we were just, oh my God, like it was really passionate. And I'm not going to lie, we had so much fucking fun, and we were keeping it a secret because first of all, we didn't even know if we were allowed to date, didn't know the parameters of that. We worked together. Just to set the stage for you, we were all staying in this hotel along with the cast. Every crew member was staying there. Everybody was there. We called it the fish tank because all the doors faced each other. It was like a giant atrium in the middle, and everything faced each other. The show took over this entire hotel. So there was no other guests there. The only people that were there were us, the crew, the cast. Everyone could see everything. So we had to be like top level, Secret Service, really had to fucking hide so no one could see. But no matter how much we tried to hide, everyone fucking knew because you could feel it. If you were in a room with us, he and I could be on opposite sides of the room and you could fucking feel the energy between us. There was this magnetic pull, and it was undeniable. And there's construction going on. I apologize. You'll probably hear it. It was undeniable. We couldn't hide it. And we tried, but we also didn't. We were reckless as fuck. We were spending every single night together. We were sneaking away while we were filming. We weren't sneaking away to fuck. We were just sneaking away to hold each other, to look in each other's eyes, and to just long for each other. It was so passionate. When we hugged each other, it was fucking electric. And we would squeeze each other so fucking tight that you felt like your lungs were going to fucking explode. It was everything I wanted. My relationship that I was in, there was no passion, there was no emotion, there was no feeling. We would sit on opposite sides of the couch, and it was always like that. Even in the beginning, I remember when he and I first got together, there was a night we got stoned. We were having a good time. We were laughing, but I remember thinking, like, this isn't that funny. He's not that funny. And I really like funny people. I like laughing. And I remember looking at him and thinking, I should probably end this now. And this was like 3 months into the relationship. I should probably end this now before he gets hurt, because I know he's not my guy. But he was safe. I just found out my dad had cancer. I just got out of a string of really bad dating experiences. And this guy was safe. He felt like home-ish, and he felt comfortable. And I was like, maybe this is good for me. Maybe I should date a guy who doesn't want to fuck me over. Some guy who just wants to take care of me. And that's why I stayed. He was a good guy, but I want a good guy still, but just a good guy that I also want to fuck. So, and if you want more details on that, you can listen to my first episode. Anywho, what I had with Kooks, and especially on this season of love, it was something, I grew up watching Disney movies. I love love stories. That's why I worked on this show. I'm a passionate person. I'm a lover girl. And he and I had this crazy connection. And the other thing to note is like the thing that connected us, the connective tissue between us and the thorough line of our relationship was that he and I were both really fucking good at our jobs, and we were both really good at manipulating. And we talked about all that stuff. Like, we talked about some really gnarly shit. So I really felt like this bond between us, because he told me so many dark things that you would never just tell a person. And I did the same thing to him, just your inner, like just your id, like the things that your id tells you, if you know about psychology at all, just the primitive thoughts we would share with each other. So I really thought that he and I had something beyond your regular relationship, something that people pray for. And I did pray for this. And we just had the best fucking time of our lives, sneaking around, working together on set, making things happen together. And there's something about being a producer on the show. It's so much fun. It's exciting. It feels like a sport. It feels like you're playing a game, but it's a mental game. And I love mental games. If you know me at all, you know I love a mental game. So it was incredible. So I couldn't have asked for anything more. Like, I was working on a show that I really loved. I was playing mental games, and I had this guy who I was obsessed with, and he was obsessed with me, and we could not get enough of each other. We just would squeeze each other so tight, swallow each other whole, just consume each other's flesh. It was incredible. It was great. You know, and people would, like, cast members even notice, like, oh, something wrong between you two. No, we're just really good friends. We're just really good friends. So, like I said, at that time, he was sober. There wasn't a lot of travel on that show, but there was one point where we did travel. Sorry for the construction noises, but I'm doing this shit, so we just got to deal with it. God, that's annoying. When we got to the next location, you know, we were sneaking around, doing our thing. It was fun. It was a great time. I didn't stay that whole season. He did. When I left, I remember he sent me a photo of the bed, and he was like, I miss you laying here. You know, I just couldn't wait for him to come home. I was so excited to see him again when he was done. He was excited to see me. While I was gone, he ended up relapsing. And from there, he kind of started just acting a fool the rest of the season, had a lot of things happen. There was a lot of times when he would FaceTime me when he was with his cast member and they were doing crazy ass shit. And I was like yelling at them, don't do this, don't do that. Like, you're going to get in trouble, blah, blah. This is kind of where all that stuff started. And, you know, he was back on drugs. And at that time, I didn't know what he used. Like, I thought maybe it was just pills. I didn't really know I knew pills for sure, but I didn't know that it got darker than that. That season ends. After each season, you have a post-mortem where you talk to your bosses and they talk about all the things you did great and all the things you need to work on. So in my post-mortem, we were doing that. They're like, you did great. You did this, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the meeting, they were like, okay, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. I was like, okay. And they said, you and Kooks. And then my stomach dropped. I was like, wow, the fuck do they know? What the fuck are they about to say? And they told me, we know. Like, there's obviously something going on between you guys. You would disappear at the same time. We don't think it's a good idea. Then they informed me of they also did this with him, of the company's policy, which is the HR policy, which is dating in the workplace. Dating in the workplace is okay. However, if you work in the same department, which we did, if you are married, dating, or a family member of someone who works in the same department as you, and this is a universal thing across every show, every film that is with this company, this is just the studio's policy. You can never be this person's superior. You can never make more or less than them. You guys have to be on an equal playing field because it is a conflict of interest. It's nepotism. It creates a lot of issues. I verified this information. This is all actually public knowledge. You could Google the studio and their HR policies, and it's all public information. And at this time, I made more than him. However, we had the same title. So it wasn't that huge of a deal. However, you know, just like anybody else, if you're passionate about your career, which I am, and he also is, you take that shit seriously. And he and I just started seeing each other. It had only been a month. I didn't know if I was willing to sacrifice my career, my earnings to be with this person, and he didn't either. So after our phone calls, we talked, and I asked, are we going to break up? Like, should we break up? And he was like, no, absolutely not. Like, let's figure this out. Let's talk about it. He ended up breaking up with me. But prior to that, let me say this real quick. After my post-mortem phone call, one of my bosses, who I respect and love so much, I don't know how he feels about me now after everything I've said and done, but I love that guy and I care about him. I think he's incredible and just the best. But he called me on the side and he warned me. He said, I don't think this is a good idea. He insinuated some things about kooks. He was very vague, but he said like, it's not a good idea. And I obviously didn't listen. So after that, me and Kooks met up in person. He ended up breaking up with me. However, he said it wasn't because of the show. As I've mentioned, like he was up and down with his sobriety. He told me his sponsor told him he shouldn't be entering a new relationship this early on in his sobriety. Obviously, it sucked. I was upset, but I was like, whatever. Okay, it's fine. My ex-fiance and I were broken up at this point. I was single and I was like, it is what it is, you know? Moving on. The next chapter. Chapter 3, and I'm calling this the season of doom. It's the day before we're supposed to leave to go to the hotel, which the producers stay at near the shooting location. He calls me on FaceTime and asks me how I'm getting to the hotel. I said, I don't know. He offered to pick me up and we'll stop and get lunch because it'll be like our last good meal because it's a fucking shit show out there. So, you know, you don't really get to eat often. And when you do, it's not usually that great. So we're like, let's go have our last meal, our final good meal before we go. So he picks me up the day we're supposed to move into the hotel and we stop in Malibu to have lunch. Then we started walking on the beach. And the next thing I know, we're kissing under this deck. And it feels so fucking good. It was really fucking cute. We just kept joking, like, is this a spot we stop? Is this our spot? Is this our spot? Like, is this a spot this is a good spot. This is a good spot. We would kiss and then we would just whisper, this is such a good spot. It was really cute. And we decided in that moment that this isn't over and the show can't stop us from being together. So we decided that we were back together. We were exclusive. We were in a relationship, but the deal was we are not going to tell anybody. There was a few people who knew, people that we trusted, some cast members who knew. Nobody else knew. Just a very select amount of people. Our families knew, people in our life knew outside of the show that we were together, but we didn't want our bosses to know. That was the only thing that mattered to us. And we were like, okay, we're going to do this. We'll keep our distance from each other at work and let's fucking go. Like let's just see what this is. So we decided to do that. One thing to note, this was his first season working with a group of women. Prior to this, he never worked with the women. The other season that he worked, he was with the main person of the show. The other season that had women. This was his first time as a producer working with all female cast members. Going into the season, I was actually perfectly fine. I had no insecurities. I felt super, super confident in our relationship. It's a huge no-no as a producer or as any crew member to fraternize or to have a relationship of the sexual nature with a cast member. It's just something you don't do. If you want to work in this industry, you want to be a producer, you want to do whatever the fuck, you don't fuck a cast member. It's just something you don't do. Okay. It's a huge no-no. It's like a teacher fucking a student, which I have fucked a teacher. So, you know, my moral compass is a little off, but it's something you don't do. I really didn't think, like, he loves his job so much. I felt like we had such a strong relationship. I had zero concern that he was going to do anything like that at all. But this is what happened. So we're still in the first stage of the season, very early on. He has an exit interview. A girl was sent home and he had an exit interview with her and he was gone for a really long time. He came back to the hotel room and he told me that this girl begged him to come upstairs to her hotel room to sleep with her. She wanted to have sex with him. She was begging and he was like, I didn't do it. Obviously, I didn't go up there for you. Like, you know, I would never do something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's kind of where it started. Like, damn, this girl just like fucking threw herself all over him. Like that's whatever. But I didn't think much of it. It was like, okay, that sucks, but whatever. Also, there was a lot of canoodling happening that I saw with him, with cast members, just, you know, sneaking off into corners and disappearing for a while and being very flirtatious, but I just thought, oh, he's just a flirty guy. Like, he's a flirty guy. Like, it is what it is. He's doing his job. He needs to get people to like him. I mean, I'm looking at other producers. Nobody else does things like that. And they still manage to do their job really well. But I started seeing things like that. We travel. We go to our first location, which is a domestic location. And there's an area where the producers and cast members have food. There's catering. We were all sitting at this round table, talking, having dinner. After we left, he and I go to our room, and he tells me this girl who is known as a very innocent girl. If you heard this about her, you would be shocked because her whole thing is how innocent she is. And he told me that she started touching his dick with her foot under the table. I'm sitting next to him at this table. There's other people at this table. He said she started trying to give him a foot job, okay? And then playing footsie with him. I was like, what the fuck? Side note, my ex-fiance and I met on a show, and never did we have something like this happen. And we had a really great time, no issues, because no one was trying to fucking touch his dick under a table, okay? It was just a weird thing. I was so confused. I'm like, okay, another girl throwing herself at him. I started getting annoyed and uncomfortable and not wanting to be there. Prior to traveling domestically, he relapsed while we were still in LA. But he was nervous to bring the drugs with him traveling because tight security at an airport. Didn't want to get caught. So when we were on the road, literally this man was like dying. He was going through withdrawals. He was sick. He was out for a few days. I didn't think this guy had any energy to go fuck someone else or go sleep around with anybody because the guy was dying. Like I was sneaking away while we were on the show to give him care. I was like bringing him Gatorades, bringing him waters because the guy was on his deathbed. Okay. He was not doing well. So the furthest thing from my mind was that he was going and fucking someone. When he finally came to and he started working again and being back on the floor, he started spending a lot of time in particular cast members' hotel rooms. Very specific people and a very specific person. And it's part of the job. You go spend a lot of time in there. Not a big deal. But there was one specific night where a producer over walkie said, "Hey, Kooks, you spent enough time in there. I think you need to leave." And the tone and the way he said it really rubbed me the wrong way, and it made my antennas go up. I was like, this is weird. So it's not just me who's noticing it. There's other people we work with noticing that he's spending too much time with this person. Again, I put it aside because he is dying. And, maybe he was just trying to get close to this person because, they had a big story on the show. He wanted to prove himself. He wanted to get in with this person. Maybe that was why. And, he also was out for a few days because he was quote unquote sick. So maybe he's just trying to do his job. Okay. Then we travel internationally. And at this point, I was with someone who had a really big story on the show, a really strong connection with the main person of the show. So I was with her and she had a date. I went on the date with her. I come back. He comes to the hotel room and he tells me that while I was gone, he was in the room with two girls in their hotel room and they flashed him their titties and propositioned him for a threesome. What? I was like, wait a second. First of all, you're like, the guy's good looking, okay, but he's not fucking Brad Pitt. Like, why are all these fucking women throwing themselves at him? I was like, is this what it's like when you date a guy who's good looking? Like, I don't know. It was weird. It was weird. And I'm like, these girls are all here pursuing love. Why are these women just throwing themselves at you? I was so fucking confused. And I just thought it was so inappropriate. And I just didn't like it. And I had so many questions. This is kind of where it all started for me. This is where my insecurities really started to grow. All the other things were child's play compared to this story. And this is really the catalyst for the downfall of my mental health once I heard this and my mental health working on the show. I was like, describe the situation to me. Like, what exactly happened? Why did they flash you? What were you guys talking about? How did this happen? Why would they proposition you for a threesome? And these were two women. One of the two had a very strong connection with the lead. I just couldn't believe it. It didn't make sense at this point. He had no reason to lie to me. There was no reason for me to question that what he was telling me was not true, besides from the fact that it just sounded so absurd that it just didn't make sense. I even was like, what did their nipples look like? Tell me. what, describe their tits. Because I was like, I can't believe this. He's like, no, Alanna, this fucking happened. I was like, I don't know, man. It was hard for me to believe, but he was so convincing that I did. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable with you being around these women if they're just trying to fuck you and flash their tits at you. I just didn't like it. It was weird. Then I would see him canoodling with one of the girls. Like I saw them taking selfies together in some corner, one of the girls from the flashing. And I was like, this is weird. You know, I feel uncomfortable and yet you're continuing to do this. This isn't even your person that you work with directly. There's no reason for you to be doing this. It made me feel weird. He goes home. I stay for the remainder of the season because, again, I was with a girl who had an extremely strong connection with the lead. We went all the way. We went all the way to the end. While we were in this other country, side note, all of the things that Kooks was telling me made me isolate myself from the women of the show. Coincidentally, in the beginning of the show, I had a very strong connection and I was with who would be considered the villain of the season. And she had a huge storyline. She was a huge part of the show. So her and I spent a lot of time together. So inherently, a lot of the girls on the show didn't like me and didn't trust me because I was with this girl who was, we were calling people out and we were having a great time. I was already isolated because of that, but additionally, I was isolated because he was telling me all these things. So I wasn't making an effort with anybody, but I also was just like, I don't even care to talk to these people because they're just all trying to fuck my boyfriend. And, no fault to them. Most of them didn't even know we were dating. So it's not any fault to them. And again, probably not even true. Continuing. Once my girl left, I became close with a girl who had a strong connection with the lead. Her and I went all the way to the end together. He was gone. Her and I were in this country. I was spending a lot of time with her. The whole entire time we were just crying and listening to Taylor Swift albums and, dancing and doing whatever. And I ended up telling her all this stuff, like with the flashing and everything, because, at this point, there's no one else there. Her and I were super close. She knew about all these things. When we were in the final stages of the show, I started getting a weird feeling from him when he was back home. He was being way less talkative. He wasn't acting like himself, how he normally acts with me, and it wasn't the same amount of communication. I started getting a weird feeling about everything. After the show ended, I went straight to Florida to see my family. I was there for about a week, Thanksgiving, and then I came home to California. I got back the night before my birthday. Kooks and I had plans on my birthday. During the day, I was going sailing with my friends at a marina that was near his home because afterwards he was taking me to dinner. That was the plan. Okay. My heart's racing. My heart's racing because I'm remembering all of the anxiety and everything I've felt during this time because you just know. As a woman, you just know when someone is not telling you the truth. And it's a weird feeling for someone to lie right to your face when your gut is telling you they're not telling you the truth. So, I feel very uncomfortable and it's just bringing back all of these emotions and feelings that I felt during this time. I had so much anxiety that I remember one night I was having a full-on panic attack and it had nothing to do with him, but I think because there were so many lies that were happening that my body was just kind of tripping out. And I remember a friend of mine had to drive to my house and bring me a Ativan to calm me down because, I didn't have anything at that time. So it was the night before my birthday and he went out with his friends, his guy friends. Some of the people there were guys that he worked with, cast members from previous seasons. I was like, okay, it's a night with the boys, whatever, have fun. He was quote unquote sober at this time. Next thing I know, I see a story on Instagram. It was also on Reddit. It was all over the place that night. And it was a girl from the season we just left. And it was a story that she posted where she was smelling a rose. And I could tell from the background that she was out at the same place where my boyfriend was. Like I said, there were other cast members there, guys from different seasons. So everyone in the comments and everything, I read everything because I was like, what the fuck is going on? They were all speculating that her and this specific cast member guy were hooking up. because she posted stories with him. I had a weird feeling in my stomach. It wasn't necessarily that I thought her and my guy were hooking up, but maybe it was another girl that was there, one of her friends she brought. I just didn't feel good. And he ended up relapsing that night, and he called me at about midnight to say happy birthday. And I heard girls in the background, so I felt weird. The next day, I get up, I go sailing with my friends. I call him after and I say, okay, I'm coming over. And he's like, oh, I'm so hungover and my friend got arrested last night. And, it's just like, I don't know if we should go to dinner tonight. Like, I just don't know. And I had a pit in my stomach and I just said, fuck that. I'm coming over. It wasn't because I needed to see him, nothing like that. It was just, I needed to see if there was a fucking girl there. I had a weird feeling and I just wanted to know the truth. I just wanted to know what the fuck was going on. So I said, no, I'm coming over. He's like, oh, okay, well just give me like 15, 20 minutes. I was like, no, I'm coming over. So I go over there and there was nobody there. It was just him, his roommate. There was pizza boxes. His friend that got arrested the night before was there. I was like, okay. So maybe it's just in my head. He really was just hungover. It's just in my head. He is hungover. His friend got arrested last night. It was a crazy fucking night. I'm being a crazy bitch. I'm being a crazy ass bitch right now. And I need to chill the fuck out. I'm being too hard on this dude. He just had a crazy fucking night. It sucks that he was like trying to cancel with me on my birthday. That part wasn't chill. And I was more just like, yeah, I'm mad at you because you wanted to do that. But obviously you didn't hook up with anybody because there's no one here and his friends are here. Why would there be a girl here too? Like I just didn't think. I was like, no, that's whatever. I want to say a few days later. I think I stayed over there for a few days after that. And then I was leaving his place and he calls me. He asked me, who knows that we're in a relationship together? And I was like, I don't know, like a few people, a few cast members. And he's like, oh, okay. Cause like someone from the show found out that we're together and she's like really upset and I'm scared she's going to tell the bosses and we're going to get in trouble. And I was like, what? I was like, who's upset? Like, what do you mean? Who's upset? And he told me who it was. And I was like, why would she care? Like, why would she care that we're dating? Why is that a big deal to her? And he said, well, I think she just had like a really big crush on me and she's just upset because maybe she thought we had a chance together or something, which, obviously we don't because I'm a fucking producer on the show. I'm not trying to get fired. I was like, well, not only that, you're in a fucking relationship. Hello. I just thought that was weird. I remember talking to a few cast members after that, like who were with her, with the people who told her. And I asked, like, why was she so upset? Like, is there something I need to know? And they were like, no, I mean, she didn't say anything. We don't know why. I thought that was very weird. That was very weird. And I was pretty suspicious after that. I never worked with this girl directly, but he just continued telling me like she's crazy and, she's erratic. I'm fucking crazy. So I'm one to talk, but like what a lot of producers think and how a lot of producers view cast members and how they speak about them is honestly not great. And it's just like, well, if you're crazy enough to go on a fucking reality show, then you must be insane. I never aligned with that school of thought, obviously, because I'm a lunatic and also because these are human beings and you're asking them to be on a show. But there is like this division between producers and cast members. And this is a universal thing on all reality shows where a lot of producers, not all of them, but they have this demeanor. They don't treat cast members like people, which I guess you kind of have to remove yourself emotionally from the situation in order to produce the best story. Because even if you work on a documentary, they call the people on the camera subjects. They're subjects of the show. So you can't really be emotionally invested because then you won't be able to produce the best possible story. You're having these people do insane things. So you kind of have to detach yourself. So when he's speaking about this girl, he's like almost, it's just like she's not even a person. So how could I even hook up with this subject? It's not something I haven't heard before from other producers, not in the sense of like hooking up, but in general, like that's just a general way of talking about people on shows. Between that season and the next season was the holidays. And we had a moment where we questioned the relationship. We were like, should we break up? Should we not? We had a postmortem. In the postmortem, they said, we know you guys are still dating. You are risking your jobs right now. If you're going to be together, you need to tell us. You need to make a decision. So we didn't know what to do. And I remember I said, well, why don't we just spend this time off together, see how we feel at the end. And if we're not feeling it, we just end it before the next season starts. But if we are, we just come clean. And he told me he was worried about doing that. And I asked him why. And he said, because I know if we spend this time together that I'm going to fall in love with you. And I said, well, what's so wrong with that? And then we decided to do it. We decided to spend that time together. And we had an incredible fucking time. We went to Catalina on a trip. We went camping. We spent every single fucking day together. Every single day. And we were just totally, completely in love. And it was incredible. If I'm being honest, it was great. We had so much fun. And he brought a lot of happiness to my life. And I think I did the same to him. It was a great time. Starting the new year, we decided that we were going to continue keeping this a secret, and we were just going to be on top of our fucking game. Like, not even fucking looking at each other at work, trying not to even be in the same room as each other, just really fucking on top of it and just isolate from each other. You know, during that time, during the holiday season, during the time off, we started isolating ourselves from everybody in our lives. I stopped talking to friends. I completely abandoned them. We were just shacked up in his apartment in Long Beach, going on bike rides, watching sunsets, cooking for each other, falling in love. And he was using drugs, and I turned a blind eye. I knew he was using. I still didn't know what it was. I remember he'd spend hours in the bathroom, and I'd go in the bathroom after, and it had a weird smell. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't ask. I didn't want to know because I was so blissfully happy and having such a good time. And it had been so long since I felt a love like this that I didn't care. I completely abandoned everything I believe in. I don't even use drugs. The only drugs I use is something to chill my brain out because my doctor tells me I need it so I don't jump off a cliff. But I don't use drugs recreationally. I do like shrooms. I'll have them sometimes, but I've never tried hard drugs. It's just not me. I don't even drink that often. You know, all this time we were together, we weren't even drinking. He was just using drugs in the bathroom. And I was just like, okay, I went along with it. I did. The next production we work on is a stage show, and all the girls return to discuss the season. During this time, I was working with who you would consider to be the villain of the season. And on this show, on this stage show, there was a huge moment between her and another cast member. And in that moment, my girl called out the other girl for having a relationship right when she got back from the show with another guy from a different season. And she called him by name, and it was very direct, and it was to her face, and it was on the show, and it was a storyline on the show, and it was a huge deal. And as far as I knew, and as far as she knew, that happened. And talking to my boyfriend who was there, that happened. So there was no reason for anyone to think that that wasn't the situation. So she called her out for that. I played a huge role in that moment. That was my girl. I was a huge part of that. Next season, we're going to call this the season of lies. So at this point, I had a moment of relief. I was like, okay, we're going into this season. It's all dudes. I'm like, thank fucking God. Like, hallelujah. Don't have to deal with anyone fucking giving him a foot job under the table or fucking begging him to go up to their hotel room. No flashing of titties, okay? It's just a bunch of dudes. I'm ready to go. This is going to be a fucking blast. I couldn't wait. I was like, finally, I can fucking relax and do my job. And he was sober at this point. He sobered up and we started the show. About a week or so into filming, he relapsed, unbeknownst to me. And then we were traveling to go international. He ditched his drugs before we traveled. And I fucking knew that I knew he was back on drugs, and he told me, and I was like, I fucking knew it. And whatever. So he didn't have any drugs, but he was drinking again. So he was drinking a lot and partying a lot. However, we were still good. It was the end of our time internationally, and I left with my cast member to go to the next location. He got to stay back for an extra night, so he took that opportunity to go out. He and another person who works on the show and 2 other cast members left to go out, and they were having dinner, and 2 hairdressers, they don't work for the show, they worked for the ship. They joined them. And these girls were because every week they would cut the guy's hair. They were good looking girls, I think. So these girls joined them. The person that I know who was out with them told me that they felt really uncomfortable by the way my boyfriend and this other person were acting. So they ended up leaving, and they had a flight the next morning. So this person told my boyfriend, like, you really should go. Like, you need to leave. And he wouldn't listen. Obviously, he's going to do what he wants to do. So they left. For the rest of the night, my boyfriend completely ignored me. I didn't hear anything from him. The only thing I heard from him was at one point he accidentally answered his phone, and all I heard was the Macarena. And I started laughing. I was like, what the fuck? And then me and this other person who was there originally were like texting the entire night. I was like, what the fuck is going on? They need to get the fuck out of there. He's going to fucking lose his job if they don't make that flight. Like, it's getting later and later and later. I'm in my hotel room back in the United States, just like there's a time difference. I was staying up all night. I just wanted to make sure that he didn't, number 1, fucking cheat on me. Number 2, get fucking fired. Number 3, there's 2 fucking girls out there with them. What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on right now? I was fucking pissed. Finally, he calls me. I don't know what time it was there. It was super late. I think they had to leave for the airport at like 5 a.m. and they get back to the ship around 2 or 3. I don't know. And my boyfriend at the time tells me that he had to stay a little extra longer because his cast member needed to say goodbye to the hairdresser. And I was like, why does he need to say goodbye to the hairdresser? What do you mean? And then he told me that they were hooking up. What the fuck? I was like, so are you hooking up with this other fucking hairdresser? And he's like, no, I'm not. No. I'm not hooking up with her. Da, da, da. I was like, then why did you not answer your fucking phone all night? I don't buy it. I do not freaking buy it. Then he goes dark again, and they're with these hairdressers, and I don't know what the fuck they're doing. And there were pictures taken, and I just kept telling him, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you're going to lose your goddamn job. You're stupid. You're so stupid. And it's later in the season. I'm like, why would you let this guy do that? You're so dumb. It's so wrong. Then, obviously, people find out everything. People fucking talk. From that moment on, I was living in fear that people would find out what happened. My ex-boyfriend would be connected to it. And so I lived on Reddit and Instagram, like spoiler accounts, for months. And I was watching everything because I did not want him to get exposed, because I did not want to work on the show without him there. I didn't think what that guy did was right. It was completely wrong. And in no shape or form was I trying to protect him. I selfishly was protecting my boyfriend at the time. I just didn't want him to get fucking fired. Then, we're all in LA. There's only a few people left on the show, and he's just using drugs, doing shit. And his mom is saying she's worried about him. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and it wasn't good. I don't know at what point I found this out, but around this time, or maybe slightly before, he told me that it was heroin that he uses. And then it was just very dark from there. I was like, pills are obviously really bad, but heroin is so fucking intense. I've never known anyone who was a heroin addict. It was really fucking scary. But I was already in love with him at this point. And should I have left him? Yes. But I told him, you have a disease. If you had cancer, I wouldn't leave you. You have a disease. And as long as you're getting help and working on yourself, I will support you and I will stay with you. But this moment you stop doing that, I won't. But I'm not going anywhere. Which is so fucking stupid. We get back from the show. I lived in a place that had really horrible parking. He suggested that I get rid of the place if I can get out of the lease. I could, no problem, no penalty. The landlord completely understood, and he wanted me to move in with him and his roommate while we were still traveling. And then when we got back from the show, we would get our own place. So we ended up moving in together. And he told me, I want you to be my wife. I want to have babies with you. And I felt the same exact way. I wanted to be with him forever. So we decided that this was more important than the show. We could always work on another show if it's not okay. So we decided to go public. We had a call with HR. We told our bosses. Bosses weren't necessarily congratulatory. They were like, okay, cool, tell HR. Because they didn't agree with it. And I completely agree. I wish I listened. They were right in every way. This was completely inappropriate. It led to a lot of issues, and it should have never happened. So we didn't immediately just post online or tell anybody. We just told people who needed to know. But I felt just such relief we were going into the next season and I was like, oh, thank fucking God, because I can't handle any more fucking foot jobs, you know? Like, I can finally relax. People know we're together. I just felt at ease. So the next season, it's a summer show, and I'm going to call this the season of drugs. Okay, this is the next chapter, the season of drugs. My worries are put to bed. We start this new season. I'm really excited. It's my favorite show. I fucking love it. I couldn't wait. We're there, and, you know, we're just blissfully happy. Everyone around us could see it. We got to do dates together where our people liked each other and we got to go and we just had the best time ever. And I remember one time there was a rainstorm. Me and him and my girl and his guy were stuck in a boom boom room and power was out, and he and I were just like holding each other. And my friend, the girl who I was with, she was like, you guys are just so insanely in love. It's like disgusting. And it was fucking disgusting. And people would like pull me aside, like his dudes on the show, and be like, don't hurt him. He loves you so much. Okay. Yeah. Prior to starting the season, once again, he was sober. Before the show started filming, I was with a girl who kept going AWOL, and they wanted me to fly out to her to see if she'll come to the show, to the beach. So I flew out to her from this country back domestically to go get her. While I was gone, he relapsed. And I didn't know. Come back. We start the season, and, you know, it's Mexico. In Mexico, you can just go up to fucking anywhere. You can go in any store. You can fucking walk in anywhere and you can get anything you want over the counter. Okay. There's no restrictions. Mexico is the worst place to be if you're a drug addict. As the show continues, he starts taking a huge downward spiral and it starts getting pretty scary. It's very busy when we're out there. The only times we're really seeing each other is at night and sometimes during the day when we'd sneak away to cuddle and whatever. Concerned coworkers started coming up to me and asking if he's okay, saying they're worried about him. One person in particular who is just like an angel, I love her. She started crying and said how concerned she is for him. Everyone was concerned for him. There's cast members that I've spoken to later who told me that they were literally crying in concern for him. Like, people really care about him and his well-being, and people were worried about him on this season. I didn't really know what to do. I can't control him. I'm his girlfriend, but he's a drug addict. Like, it has nothing to do with me. I'm not responsible for his drug use. I'm going to be painfully honest with you. I realize this now, but I was really only in love with him when he was high, because when he was sober, he was kind of mean and cruel and horrible to me. But when he was high, he was nice. That's why I didn't leave, because he treated me really well when he was high. And it's really fucked up to say, but if you're someone who's been in a relationship with an addict, you completely understand what I'm saying. It's really hard to fucking leave. I mean, some addicts are the worst when they're high and they do horrible things to people, but that wasn't the case here. So it made it really hard to leave. Selfishly, I just wanted the love, to be honest with you. As I said, everyone knew that we were together. Our bosses knew. They put us in our own little room together, and we had this tiki hut that overlooked the ocean. The waves were so loud, it's all you could hear, and it was just the most romantic experience. We called it our little tree house, and we had the best time. It was so fun. Even though it was so dark, it was just a really great fucking time. At the end of the season, when people were getting engaged, we wanted to get engaged. And we text our boss and said, hey, if you guys want to produce our engagement, we're down. And he was like, are you serious? And we were like, yeah, we're serious. But at that point, we just missed the rings. The guy with the rings left. So we didn't get engaged. And I don't even know if they would have done it, but especially because, you know, I'm sure, I mean, everybody knew he was so high. So I don't know if they would have let us do it, but we wanted to get engaged at the end of that season. I didn't know the extent of his drug use. I could obviously tell he was extremely fucked up. He was disappearing a lot. What I didn't know until after was that he was smuggling in illegal drugs, stuff you can't get over the counter. And he and his buddy were sneaking away from set and just doing lines and coming back and filming. So post season, we get back and the drug use really, it gets worse. Someone in his family ends up passing away. We go to the funeral. He's falling asleep at the table. I'm having to like pinch his leg to wake him up. so he doesn't embarrass his family. And it was really fucking bad. Everybody knows he's high. Like, it's very obvious. This was a really horrible thing. And I feel bad even talking about it because it's something that he really regrets. As many things that I say that are not great about him, this really killed him. So he ends up sobering up after that. And we fly to Florida. He meets my family. Everybody loved him. My sister's never liked any guy I've brought home, but she loved this guy. He just fit right in with my family. And then I loved him even more. At this point, he started taking his sobriety really fucking seriously. He started going to meetings every day. After the whole thing with his family, the funeral, going to see my family, he really started taking it seriously. And he was like, I am getting my shit together. I can't fucking do this anymore. I want to start a life with you. I want us to have a family. I want us to have a real fucking life. Like, I can't do this anymore. So he really finally committed to it and started doing it. He was really fucking committed and it was great. So we started looking for places together. This is the next chapter, which is the final season, which is with another group of women. And I've been fucking dreading this. I've been dreading this fucking moment. You know when you do something really fucking embarrassing and you just get these like flashes of it randomly? You'll just be like washing your dishes and you're like, oh my God, that time I fucking farted in a public room. Like, you know, just things that fucking haunt you late at night, things that keep you up at night. This was that thing that kept me up at night. I had so much trauma that I was so scared to do this final season, to the point where I told him, I don't think I can do it. And I was so close to calling my boss and telling him I can't do this next season. I can't fucking do it. And they had no idea. They had no idea about any of these things that happened. They had no idea why I was spiraling so much, why I was so upset, why this was so hard for me. They didn't know because I couldn't talk about it. Like, what am I supposed to say? I had no attachment to continue working on it. The only attachment I had was him. He was the only reason I wanted to say. I've struggled with depression my entire life. I've had periods where I've had suicidal thoughts. I've really had to work on my mental health. I have medication prescribed to me from a doctor to keep the demons at bay. He took all of that medication when he was at his lowest of the lows. I realized when we were packing for the final season, I had nothing left. And he told me that he took it. Like, I couldn't call my doctor and say, hey dude, my boyfriend's a heroin addict. He took all my drugs and I'm going to need you to write me another prescription. I'll never get another fucking prescription from this man again if I say that. I couldn't say that. So I just had to like wait until the time was up so I could renew my prescription. So we get to the hotel for the final season and I start freaking the fuck out. And I'm like, I'm back at war. I'm back at fucking war. I can't do this. I can't go back to the battlefield. I have PTSD. Please don't send me back to war. Please. I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be there. I told him I was going to leave. Told him that he needed to take me to the hospital because I was in full depression mode. I was suicidal. And again, I have a chemical imbalance. He didn't do anything at this point to upset me. It was not of his doing. It's PTSD. It was all the feelings. I didn't have my medication, which it's almost like when you have the medication, like before you even take it, you almost just feel at ease knowing that like you have it. Like I'll have this stuff for fucking months and never take anything. But like just knowing I have it gives me comfort because if I have a panic attack or if I start spiraling, I know I have something that will stop it and help me. He obviously felt incredibly guilty because he's the one who took this. He didn't want me to leave. He was begging me not to go. I told him that I wanted to be 5150'd. I literally wanted to be 5150'd. That's how low I was. He told me, he's like, I'm going to find you something. And I said, no, don't do that. Like, how would you even find this? He's like, I'm a drug addict. I can find drugs. So he did. He ended up finding something for me. I took it. I calmed down. He didn't want me to leave. And I was like, okay, I'll fucking stay. The entire season, I was unwell. I kept getting sick from stress. I was getting UTIs. That was also from just having a lot of sex. You know, the girls were fabulous on that season. There was never a time where I really felt, and they all knew that we were in a relationship. So there was never a time where I felt uncomfortable because of them. It just was PTSD and I didn't want to be there. And everything he did made me uncomfortable. I just couldn't do it. And it was very apparent to my bosses. It was apparent to everybody. I was not well and I shouldn't have been there. We get home. It's November and I get a call from one of my best friends in the world. He's gay. He's marrying the love of his life. He knows about my boyfriend. I tell him we're moving in together and he's like, you should bring him. I was like, oh my God, absolutely. I was so excited. I run into the room after we get off the phone to tell my boyfriend that we are going to go to this wedding. We don't have anything going on. He has no other friends. Like there's no social obligations. So I tell him, oh my God, this wedding, we're going to go. It's going to be so fun. He asked me, it's a gay wedding. I said, yeah. And he said, I'm not going to that. That took me so back because we work with a lot of people who are not straight and he has a great relationship with these people. He is a type of person that talks a lot of shit, but I really didn't think that the things that he really was homophobic to the point where he wouldn't go to a gay wedding, and someone who's my best friend, who I care about more than anything, who knows my entire family. Why wouldn't you go to this? So it caused a huge rift between us. Prior to this, he and I had never fought. We had never gotten in a fight. Like so much so, his roommate, his best friend, he didn't understand it. Like, how do you guys never fight? I've never seen you guys fight. You guys are always good. Maybe because I didn't ask too many questions, but we never had a fight prior to this. This was the first time we ever got in a fight. So when this happened, I was so shocked and it was very upsetting. I remember I told his mom about it and she was disappointed. She was like, well, see what happens. Maybe he'll change his mind. I was like, okay. So it's the end of November. We find a place. We're moving in. It's the day we're moving into the place and I have my postmortem. And in that call, my bosses said, it's probably not a good idea for you to come back next season. You're obviously not happy. You're obviously not doing well. You need to take time for yourself. And I couldn't agree more. I was relieved. I was happy. I told my boyfriend. He was very upset. He wanted to quit the show. He didn't know if he wanted to go back. And I said, no, it's totally okay. This is a good thing. I don't even want to work in reality TV. I was doing this for you, as you know. Now this is an opportunity for me to figure out what I want to do. After I parted ways with the show, Kooks told me he would come to the wedding. I was like, great. Oh my God. Okay. I booked the flights. I was so excited. We're going to go to this wedding. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so fun. A week later, everything starts settling in. I slip into a depression. I become suicidal. I express this to him that I'm not doing well, that I need help. And what he does is freak out because he can't handle emotions. He told me he wasn't going to come to the wedding. He questioned our relationship. He was really upset. Everything he was saying made me feel bad for even having emotions or expressing this to him. Like I felt so unsafe. Come December, when he took me to the airport, I was crying the entire time. I just couldn't believe that he knew how important this wedding was to me and how much it meant for him to come. While I was gone, at this wedding, I could tell he was acting different. He had a guy over from the show who I wasn't particularly a fan of, someone who is a cheater and also does drugs too. And I just couldn't even enjoy the wedding. I was just so in my head. I was so upset. I couldn't even enjoy it. I couldn't be there. It really fucking sucked. And it's no fault to him. It's my fault. I wasn't prioritizing myself. My main focus was him. I come back and I realize a couple days later that he's back on drugs. And we had plans for the holidays to go to his family's and then mine. I was like, what the fuck are you going to do? It's like, I'm not bringing you around my family and you're not going to be around your family while you're on drugs. So he stopped and he was pretty low energy the whole holiday season. And at this point, he had nothing financially. He had spent all of his money on drugs. He had absolutely nothing. I was paying for most things. He owed me so much money at this point. I was paying for rent, all this other stuff, because he had nothing. So come holidays, like he has no money. I bought gifts for his entire family. I wasn't going to let the little kids in his family not have a gift from their favorite uncle on Christmas Day. I bought gifts for my family, from us. It's the night before Christmas. I just had a feeling that he didn't get me anything for Christmas. I just had a feeling and I kept wrestling with it in my head. Do I ask him? Did you get me something? Did you not? Like, what do I do? But the reason why I ended up asking him is because of the embarrassment. Like, I didn't want to wake up Christmas morning. Everyone's opening presents. His parents get me something. And then my boyfriend doesn't give me anything. And you know what's crazy is the week before, his mom was like, oh my God, what if you guys get engaged this Christmas? Me and, his sister-in-law, we were talking about it. I was like, in my head, I'm like, there's no fucking way we're getting engaged this weekend. Or there's no way we're getting engaged this Christmas. I'm like, I'm going to be lucky if I even get a gift. So I talked to him about it and I said, hey, like, I'm not trying to like make this a fight or anything, but like, did you get me something for Christmas? This is Christmas Eve, the night before, like when we're going to sleep and we're in bed, and he starts freaking out. He's being so loud. I'm sure his family heard. And I was like, what? Like, calm the fuck down. Like, he starts freaking out. How dare you ask me if I got you something for Christmas? Like, what the fuck? You ruin everything. You ruin everything. I can't even do something nice for you. I can't even do one thing nice for you. Like, why the fuck would you ask me that? Like, I brought you here to be with my family. Like, you should be honored that you're here. Just going in on me. And then I end up apologizing. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to like upset you. Like, I just don't want to be embarrassed tomorrow. And I'm just wondering if you got me something. And he's like, well, I wasn't even going to tell you this, but yes, I got you something. And this is what I got you. He got me a printed canvas of a portrait of us. And he said, but it's delayed. Mind you, the portrait didn't come for like 3 months. I didn't get it until like the few days before he went to rehab. Okay. And then he told me, you're so materialistic. This man has never, how am I materialistic? I told him, listen, you could have fucking written me a letter. You could have made me a piece of origami. I don't care what you give me. It's just the thought. And it's embarrassing. Like, I got your family all these Christmas gifts. Like, obviously I'm not doing this for something in return. I'm doing it because I love and care about them and you. You could have like printed out a piece of paper with the order and the thing of what you got me and said, hey, it's coming late, but here's your gift. That would have been sweet. Like, you didn't get me anything. So yeah, nothing for Christmas. That really fucking sucked.